Now, on Sunday, March 15, 2026, a 23-year-old man named Emmanuel Mbabwe walked into Eden Church in downtown Houston carrying a black backpack. Now, inside of that backpack was a .22 caliber revolver loaded with 6 rounds and more than 100 additional rounds of ammunition. Now, many of you were thinking a .22 is not a big deal. It most definitely is. Now, as a former law enforcement officer with 30 years, including 20 years on SWAT, I'm here to tell you I've seen a number of people shot with .22s and some that have died. When you talk to cops that work in an urban environment, a .22 is used often in homicides and they're effective. Now, in Mbabwe, he had a target, which was the pastor of the church. Now, he had a written plan which included where he was going to kill the pastor. And he had been to that church before. Now, today I want to walk you through what happened at Eden Church, because this is one of the clearest examples I have seen in a very long time of a church security team doing its job exactly the way that it's supposed to be done. Now, nobody got hurt, and it wasn't by luck. Now, let me give you the facts first. Now, about 2 months before that Sunday, Mbabwe had come into the church and started handing out flyers that disturbed the people who had read them. Now, the staff did the right thing. They asked him to leave, and they flagged him to the security team. Now, one of those team members, a man named Fernando Romo, remembered his face. Now, when Mbabwe walked back in that Sunday morning, Romo recognized him immediately. Now, Pastor Jared Darby, who turned out to be the intended target, had already told his security team to keep watch for this man if he ever came back. So Romo started tracking him inside the building. He watched Mbabwe follow the pastor forward towards the restroom and then go in and out of that restroom multiple times and then fade back into the crowd. Now, another pastor, Abraham Guajardo, walked up and asked Mbabwe what business he had there. Now, while they were talking, Romo saw Mbabwe reach for the grip of the front of a pistol in his front pants pocket and try to draw it. Now, the hammer of that revolver snagged on the fabric of his pants. Now, that snag is what gave Romo the time that he needed. He tackled him to the floor, and on the ground, Mbabwe started counting down out loud and pressing his phone. Now, Romo thought that he was trying to set off a bomb, so he grabbed the phone out of his hand. Now, it was open to the notes app. The note read, "Kill Jared Darby, the pastor, in the downstairs restroom with bag in hand." It also listed the make, model, and license plate of the pastor's car. Now, while they held him down, Mbabwe shouted that he was going to kill Jared, the pastor, who he said was a fake prophet, and that he himself was a prophet called Warlock. Now, police arrested him at the scene, and he now faces 2 counts of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, unlawful carrying, and resisting arrest, and he was held on bail above $250,000. Now, no one in that congregation was injured. Now, let me tell you why this congregation is still alive. Because there are 3 reasons, and every one of them is inside of your reach this Sunday. Now, the first one is a threat log. Mbabwe didn't walk in as a stranger. He was a known quantity. 2 months earlier, he acted strange, and the team ejected him and made a note of it. Now, that's the whole game. Every person who behaves abnormally around your church should be documented. The date, the time, and a description of that behavior, what was said, who talked to them, and how it ended. Now, I just want to take a moment to remind you that you can head over to alert.christianwarriortraining.com. Over there, I have it set up to where you can do your suspicious activity reports. And that's what this is. It's a suspicious activity report. You can go ahead and log it over there. Now, we don't investigate anything. All we do is we look for people doing the same thing over and over. So as an example with Mbabwe, if you had logged him and we put that out to other churches and they go, hey, that same guy's been there at our church, or he's been over at this church, then you guys can coordinate and figure out some kind of a strategy to deal with it. Now, you should always call law enforcement first, and you should always log it with your local regional intelligence center. We're the last thing to do. It's just that we have a large audience and we can get that put out to everybody. All right, let's go back to this reporting. Now, one strange contact means nothing by itself. But the same man 2 months later in the same building with a backpack means everything. But you only see that pattern if you wrote the first one down. If your team has no system for logging suspicious contacts, build one this week. It's super easy. A shared document or a notebook at the welcome desk beats nothing. Any person on your team on any Sunday should be able to answer one question. Has this person caused a problem here before? Now, the second reason is that the pastor talked. Pastor Darby told his security team in advance to watch for this man specifically. He didn't wait for the day of the attack. He didn't hope it would go away. Now, this is the piece that gets missed very often. Your pastor is the single most valuable source of intelligence that you have. He knows who has sent him threatening emails. He knows which counseling situations made him uneasy. He knows which former member left angry. Now, if your pastor doesn't have a regular structured way to tell you about people of concern at your church, then you don't have a security program. You have a reaction force. Now, sit down with him and build a simple intake. Ask specifically about people who have been removed from the property, people who have made threats, and people under restraining orders. That information goes to your team lead and into every briefing that you have Sunday. Now, Pastor Darby survived because he talked. The third reason is the Lord. The Lord intervened in this whole incident. The hammer of that revolver snagged on Mbavwe's pants. That's the only reason Romo had time to close the distance. If that gun had cleared clean, Romo would have been drawing from behind. Now, we have to stop romanticizing the idea that a trained responder always wins the draw. That's not how it works. The attacker already decided to kill. Your decision to react is 1.5 seconds. That's an eternity in a situation like this. He knows the second that he's going to move. You don't. You're reacting to him, and that gap favors him every single time. The only way to beat that gap is to act on the pre-attack indicators before the gun ever comes out. Reaching for the pocket, shadowing one specific person, following a staff member into a confined space, a backpack where nobody else has one, a countdown. Now, Mbavwe did all of this, and Romo moved before the weapon was up. That's the fight that you win. The fight where the muzzle is already pointed at somebody else is the fight that you lose more often than not. So I want you to train for the fight before the fight. Train to recognize, to close, and to disrupt before a single round goes off. Now, I want to take a moment to remind you that we have a course for free over at ChristianWarriorTraining.com. It is my gift to you as a fellow follower of Christ. Now, if you want to support what I'm doing here, then a paid subscription at ChristianWarriorTraining.com, it goes a long way. I'll provide you with intelligence and training to help you deal with situations just like this one. Now, two more things quickly because they are in this case too. Mbavwe was carrying that revolver loose in his front pocket, no holster, and that's exactly why the hammer got caught up. A lot of armed congregants and even some team members carry the same way, and this should be a warning to all of them. You can't have a gun in your pocket. It needs to be in a proper holster. If you don't, you're going to have snags, the gun will shift, and it's going to fail to clear when you need it most. And the same goes for those of you that are carrying in the waistband. When it happens to the attacker, it's a gift. But when it happens to you, it's a funeral. I want you to carry in a real holster in the same place on your body every time and train the draw until it's automatic. And your team should know who in the congregation is carrying and where. It's not to control them. It's so that you don't mistake a good man for a second shooter when it goes loud. Now, this is a video from the West Freeway church shooting. The church security team member in the back here died because he chose to place his handgun in a holster in the small of his back. This delays your response. Honor this man's memory by practicing and carrying your pistol from the 9 o'clock position to the 3 o'clock position. And I want you to practice, and then practice some more. Now, for incidents just like these, I recommend the build drill. I've been teaching you this for quite some time, but as a reminder, place a target at 7 yards. I want you to fire 6 rounds at the beep and fire as quickly as you can with all of your hits in the A zone. You'll have an imperfect grip and an imperfect sight alignment, but you want to do this until you can do it in under 2 seconds and then keep doing it to maintain that time. If you can't make it in 2 seconds, then keep doing it. Make that your target time. Many of you are not going to accomplish this, but you need to try. If you want free drills to make you a better shooter, I have a monthly shooting program for my paid subscribers at ChristianWarriorTraining.com. Come join me every month as I take you through some of the drills that I use to make myself a better shooter, like the Bill drill. Now let's talk about the venue that this church is at. Eden Church meets in a rented commercial building. They don't own the doors. They share the lobby and the restrooms with the public. Now, that is more common with church plants, and it changes your whole plan. Your hard edge is not the front of the building. It's the door of the room you're actually worshiping in. Put your screening there. Get eyes on every person who enters that room and patrol the restrooms, because in Bob Way followed the pastor into that restroom 3 separate times. Now, that was a rehearsal. If your team is not checking the bathrooms during service, you're not running security. You're running an ushering team. Now, let me close with scripture. This is my favorite part of everything we do here. I like talking about scripture because I want to end on a happy note, and the Lord tells us how to handle these things. We're going to go to Proverbs 22, verse 3, and it says that the prudent sees danger and hides himself, but the simple, they go on and suffer for it. Now, Fernando Romo saw the danger. He saw it 2 months earlier when this man was asked to leave, and he saw it when he walked back in with a backpack. He saw it when he followed the pastor into a restroom 3 separate times, and he acted on what he saw. Now, that's not paranoia. That is discernment shaped by experience, backed by preparation. The simple do the opposite. They walk past, they assume the best, they talk themselves out of what they already knew was wrong, and then they pay for it. Church security is not a denial of God's protection. It is stewardship over the people that he has placed in your care. Now, the hammer, it got caught in the fabric. You can't train that into a man. That was providence meeting preparation in the same doorway in the same second. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to do a threat log, and I want you to have a pastor who talks, a team that trains for the fight before the fight. These 3 things, Eden Church had all 3, and that's why that we're talking about a tackle instead of a funeral. I want you to leave a comment and tell me what your team took away from this particular incident. If your church has a security program, send this to your team leader and walk through it together. And if your church doesn't have a program yet, send this to your pastor. This is the conversation that saves lives. I want you to pray for Mr. Zimbabwe. It's the hardest thing that we ever do is praying for the suspect, but we have to pray that he repents for his sins, that he starts following Christ properly. And I want you to pray for the safety of this church. And after you do all of that, I want you to remember your ABCs. Always be caring,